Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something your nervous system is trained to build. And the elite, the ones who perform under fire, who stay calm in chaos, who execute when others collapse, they've learned how to condition their biology to serve their mission. This is not motivation. Stress inoculation rewires your brain to stay calm, alert, and mission, focused under extreme pressure. This is not a theory. It is a law written into the architecture of the nervous system. The same way muscles grow through resistance, the mind grows through pressure. And when that pressure is applied deliberately, not by accident, not in chaos, but through structured exposure, your brain learns something life-changing. It learns that intensity is not danger. It learns that discomfort is not death. It learns that clarity can exist in chaos if you train for it. Brain the size, a WARSH, between IFT in your GLOW systems. The amygdala, the seat of fear, of panic, of ancient survival instinct, and the prefrontal cortex, the region of command, logic, decision, and control. Under stress, if left untrained, the amygdala fires first. It floods the body with cortisol, spikes the heart rate, narrows vision, and silences higher thinking. This is what most people experience when they face pain, uncertainty, confrontation, or failure, but it doesn't have to be that way. The prefrontal cortex can be trained, it can be strengthened, it can take control. And when it does, your nervous system becomes your ally, not your enemy. Stress inoculation is the protocol by which this transformation occurs. Repeated, strategic exposure to controlled stress, cold, breath holds, high intensity effort, high stakes decision, making under fatigue. All of these train the nervous system to stay engaged instead of shutting down. Every time you breathe slowly under pressure, every time you force your mind to stay present when your body wants to flee, you are teaching your brain to reassign meaning. The pain becomes information, the pressure becomes a signal, and instead of spiraling, you sharpen. This is more than neuroscience. It is spiritual alignment. Because every great mission, every divine calling, will confront resistance. And if your nervous system cannot hold the weight of that resistance, your purpose will collapse under the illusion of fear. But when your biology is forged in fire, when your circuits have been trained in discomfort, you become what Scripture calls steadfast, immovable in storms, unshaken in valleys. You are not calm because life is easy. You are calm because your brain has been instructed to stay online when others shut down. This is how elite soldiers are made, not through slogans, but through suffering with structure. They submit their bodies to stress on purpose, so that when chaos comes, their minds already know the rhythm. This is what makes discipline sacred. It's not for show, it's not for applause. It's for the rewiring of the deepest systems that govern focus, action, and resolve. And the beauty is this isn't reserved for the few. Any man or woman who commits to stress inoculation, who learns to train under fire, can begin this transformation. It is available, but it is not easy. It must be earned. It must be built. It must be forged through repetition, through fire, through faith. Because pressure will either break you or build you. But when your nervous system is trained in truth, you do not break. You lead, you execute. You endure cold exposure, and controlled breathing strengthen the prefrontal cortex's control over fear responses. There is a moment when your body enters the cold, when your breath shortens, when your skin screams, that your nervous system is fully exposed. No distractions, no illusions, just your raw biology meeting stress. And in that moment, a battle begins between fear and control, between the ancient circuits that panic and the higher mind that can command calm. The cold is not the enemy, it is the mirror. It reveals whether your prefrontal cortex, the seat of judgment, focus, and restraint, has been trained to lead or remains a prisoner of the amygdala's fear. Cold exposure is more than discomfort. It is a sacred training ground. When you step into cold water or into a freezing environment with intention, your brain perceives it as a threat. Your heart rate rises, stress hormones surge, and your survival systems scream for escape. But here's where the transformation begins, when you stay, and more importantly, when you breathe. Long, controlled exhales, deep, anchored inhales. You aren't just calming yourself, you're training your brain to obey. The act of controlling your breath under stress literally engages the prefrontal cortex, allowing it to override the amygdala's panic response. You are not just surviving the cold, you are rewiring your response to fear. This process is measurable. When you breathe slowly and deeply in cold exposure, the parasympathetic nervous system activates, restoring balance and clarity. Cortisol begins to stabilize. Dopamine rises not from pleasure, but from endurance. And every time you repeat this ritual, you strengthen the bridge between mind and body. You are telling your nervous system, we don't flee from discomfort, we master it. That command is not emotional, it's neurological. And every time you issue it, your identity reshapes at a biological level. This is more than mental toughness. It is spiritual warfare in the language of the body, because fear is not just emotional, it is physical. It lives in the cells, in the reflexes, in the chemistry. And if you do not confront it through the body, it will remain buried in the body. But when you train your nervous system to face fear through controlled exposure and breath, you cleanse it. You declare that fear is no longer Lord. You bring the entire system into obedience not through hype, but through stillness under pressure. Cold is not random. It has always been a purifier. The prophets, the monks, the warriors of old, they all understood that cold stripped away the flesh, silenced the noise, and brought a man face to face with what he truly believed. In that space, there is no pretending. There is only control or collapse. And when you choose control, when you anchor your breath and master your state, you are shaping a brain that will not fold in crisis. You are building a vessel fit for mission, for calling, for fire-controlled. Breathing in cold is not a gimmick. It is a sacred practice, a neurological discipline, a training of spirit through flesh, and when you do it daily, faithfully, without compromise, your brain begins to obey you. Your fear begins to serve you, and your purpose begins to move through you with unstoppable clarity. Mental toughness is built by training the nervous system, not by relying on emotion or hype. Mental toughness is not a feeling. It is not adrenaline, nor motivation, nor momentary fire. It is not the roar of a crowd or the emotion of a breakthrough. It is built in silence, in repetition, in training that shapes the nervous system to obey the mission regardless of how you feel. Your emotions are waves. They rise and fall, crash and disappear. But your nervous system, if trained, can remain stable in that storm. It can anchor you when emotion fails. And that is the difference between those who start strong and those who finish the race. The world tells you to hype yourself up, to get fired up, to stay motivated, but when stress hits, when it's dark, when it's painful, when no one is watching, emotion will not carry you. What carries you is whether or not your brain and body have been trained to act on command. That training happens through discomfort, through exposure, through controlled adversity. The autonomic nervous system, the network that governs your stress responses, does not care about your goals. It only cares about what you've trained it to do. If you've trained it to flee, it will flee. If you've trained it to freeze, it will freeze. But if you've trained it to stay, to breathe, to engage, you become dangerous. True mental toughness comes from neuroplasticity under pressure. Every time you expose yourself to discomfort and choose discipline, you are altering the wiring of your prefrontal cortex, strengthening its grip over the emotional reflexes of the brain. You are transforming reactivity into responsiveness. You are converting panic into poise, and this is not imaginary, it is measurable. MRI scans reveal that trained individuals show increased activity in regions responsible for decision-making under stress. Their brains literally function differently when it matters most. This is not about being emotionless. It's about being unchained by emotion. Your mission is too important to be hijacked by fear or fatigue. Your calling is too sacred to be surrendered to momentary doubt, and so you train not to feel strong, but to be strong. Not to look disciplined, but to become disciplined. The nervous system, when trained properly, becomes the servant of purpose, not the slave of fear. There is no substitute for this. You cannot read your way into toughness. You cannot journal your way into fire. You must go through the furnace. You must do the reps in silence. You must breathe under pressure, fast when it's inconvenient, move when it hurts, and choose obedience when every cell in your body craves escape. And when you do this repeatedly, faithfully, without applause, something shifts. The nervous system begins to transform. The reflexes align with truth. The body becomes an instrument of focus, not fear. Mental toughness is not born from hype. It is forged in hidden places, where the spirit trains the flesh and the brain learns to kneel to discipline. It is not flashy, it is not loud, but it is unbreakable. And it is available to anyone who chooses to train the system, not chase the feeling, but shape the fire through sacred repetition. Deliberate discomfort increases dopamine baseline and sharpens cognitive resilience. The modern mind is drowning in ease, bombarded by comfort, overstimulated by false reward, numbed by instant access to everything, yet still empty, unfocused, and unmotivated. The reason is not weakness, the reason is biology. Your brain was not built to thrive in constant comfort. It was designed to earn its fire, and when discomfort disappears from your life, so does the sharpness of your focus, the resilience of your thoughts, the stability of your mood. But when you reintroduce discomfort with intention, deliberately, consistently, with reverence, your nervous system remembers its design. Your dopamine baseline rises. Your mind becomes clear, durable, and dangerous once again. Dopamine is not just about spikes of pleasure. It governs your drive, your forward movement, your ability to pursue purpose even in the face of fatigue. But the tragedy is that most people live in a state of overstimulation, constantly triggering dopamine with no effort, no mission, no pain. As a result, the baseline level of dopamine in their brain drops. They can't focus. They can't push. They need constant novelty just to feel alive. But when discomfort is chosen, when you engage in hard things like cold exposure, fasting, silence, early rising, training without music, you trigger dopamine in a way that aligns with biology. Effort becomes the reward. The baseline rises. The mind resets deliberate discomfort, tells your nervous system a new story. It says, this body serves a purpose, this pain has meaning, this struggle is sacred, and your neurochemistry begins to respond. The mesolimbic pathway, which carries dopamine, doesn't just light up when you achieve something, it activates during the pursuit. And the more consistently you choose discomfort, the more your brain rewards pursuit itself. This is how monks endure silence, how soldiers crave early mornings, how leaders rise before dawn. It is not natural, it is trained through repetition, through discomfort, through fire. But discomfort doesn't just increase dopamine, it sharpens cognition. When you're under stress and stay calm, when you deny comfort and still show up, your prefrontal cortex strengthens. This is the seat of focus, impulse control, and decision making. You are not just getting mentally tough, you are literally building the brain of a warrior. One who can hold clarity in chaos. One who can delay gratification with ease. One who thinks beyond emotion because the wiring is aligned with mission, not mood. This is how greatness is built, not with hype, but with habit. Not with noise, but with discipline. You don't need more motivation. You need more exposure to the sacred weight of discomfort. Because in that discomfort, the real you is called out. The part of you that was built to dominate challenge, to endure pressure, to lead when others fold. That version of you is already there, but it is asleep beneath layers of comfort. and only discomfort has the authority to wake it up. This is not punishment. This is programming. This is how you reclaim your brain, how you cleanse your spirit, how you rise without adrenaline, how you build resilience not through moments of strength, but through a life anchored in holy resistance to ease visual anchoring and goal fixation, activate the brain's pursuit circuitry even in chaos. There is a hidden system within the human brain that was designed not just to perceive the world, but to pursue through it. You were not given eyes merely to see. You were given vision to lock in on what must be done, even when the storm rises around you. This is more than focus. It is biological targeting. It is the activation of pursuit. And when used with precision, visual anchoring and goal fixation become tools that override panic, cut through confusion, and ignite drive even when everything in you wants to freeze in the middle of chaos, physical, emotional, spiritual. The eyes are the gate. Where your eyes go, your focus follows. Where your focus goes, your brain shifts resources. It's not theory. It's the way the autonomic nervous system was built. When you lock your gaze on a fixed point, when you set your visual field forward, slightly narrowed, stabilized, you're telling your brain, we are moving, we are pursuing, we are not reacting, we are directing. That simple act begins to suppress the panic signals rising from the amygdala. It quiets the noise. It recruits the prefrontal cortex, and it activates the dorsal attention network, the circuit responsible for goal-directed behavior. But vision alone is not enough. It must be paired with intentional goal fixation. The brain craves specificity. When the target is clear, the dopamine system lights up. Not just when you arrive, but the moment you move toward it. This is the brilliance of the system you were born with. Your brain rewards you for forward motion, not just victory. That means every step, every rep, every disciplined hour is shaping your chemistry, your confidence, your character. And that starts with locking your eyes and your mind on something immovable in the battlefield, in training grounds, in the silence of a cold morning, or the chaos of a personal war. This principle does not change. The eyes lead, the mind follows, the system activates. You may feel fear, but the fear is not in control. Because once the eyes anchor, the brain builds scaffolding around the pursuit. It suppresses distractions. It strengthens emotional regulation. It focuses resources on execution. And even if your heart is pounding, even if your body aches, the circuitry of pursuit overrides the storm. This is how warriors are forged, not by eliminating fear, but by training the eyes and the mind to serve mission over emotion. There is something deeply spiritual about fixing your gaze, setting your face like flint toward what must be done. It is not just a tactic. It is a declaration. It says to your body, to your doubt, to the chaos, I am moving forward. I am governed not by the winds, but by the way. I am not guided by what I feel. I am guided by what I see. And what I see is non-negotiable. Your nervous system is waiting to be led. It's waiting for you to stop looking around and start looking through. And once you anchor your eyes and fix your goals, the brain will follow. The pursuit circuits will awaken. The fear will lose its grip. And your body, soul, and spirit will move as one forward, focused and free. Sleep, light exposure, and recovery protocols are non-negotiable tools for high-performance mental conditioning. The warrior who never rests will eventually break. The mind, no matter how disciplined, no matter how fierce, was not built for endless output without recovery. And here lies the great deception, that strength is only found in effort, in output, in always doing more. But the truth written into your very biology is this: recovery is not weakness, it is command. It is the force that restores clarity, rebuilds neural power, and prepares the system for the next wave of battle. The elite don't ignore recovery, they master it, they protect it, they anchor their power in it. Sleep is not passive. It is a sacred neurological process where the brain undergoes recalibration. During sleep, especially slow wave and REM sleep, your brain reactivates patterns, prunes emotional trauma, and strengthens memory consolidation. The glymphatic system flushes waste from the brain, cleansing the mind, restoring alertness. If you neglect sleep, you don't just feel tired, you lose focus, decision-making ability, impulse control, and emotional stability. The prefrontal cortex dims, the amygdala overfires, the soldier becomes reactive instead of strategic. The leader becomes loud instead of wise. Sleep is not for the weak. It is the gate through which strength is renewed, but sleep doesn't begin at night. It begins in the light of morning, when your eyes see sunlight, unfiltered, early, within the first hour of waking. You reset your circadian rhythm. This light, when it enters the eyes, triggers the release of cortisol in the correct dose, a healthy, energizing rise. It also starts the timer for melatonin to be released at night. Without light, your system drifts, focus fades. Motivation becomes unstable, anxiety increases. But when you give your nervous system that dose of natural light early each day, you are not just waking up. You are aligning your body with time, purpose, and order, and beyond sleep and light. Recovery protocols are the final pillar of neurological dominance. Sleep deep rest, NSDR, intentional breathing, low stimulus walks, mindfulness. These aren't luxuries. They are tools for reclaiming attention, lowering baseline stress, and restoring the dopamine system. Every high performer who endures over time has mastered recovery, because in recovery, the nervous system recalibrates. The muscles grow, the mind sharpens, the purpose becomes clear. This is not laziness. This is obedience to the laws of resilience. You do not serve your mission by breaking yourself. You serve it by staying whole. This is why those called to impact the world must protect these foundations with sacred discipline. They must treat recovery not as optional, but as spiritual warfare. Because when the world is running on fumes, the person who sleeps with intention, sees the light, and rests with clarity is the one who leads with fire. Their thoughts are sharp, their emotions are regulated, their body is strong, their focus is durable. They are not surviving on empty, they are operating on overflow. Because they train their system not just to go hard, but to restore deeply. You were not designed for burnout. You were not meant to crash. You were built for rhythm, work, and rest, effort, and renewal. And when your nervous system aligns with that rhythm, you become something rare, clear, calm, relentless, and completely prepared for the war ahead.